All right, we are back here on Sportsline with the one and only Hope Hines tonight as we get set for the Shoney's 5K Fun Run coming up this week. But we're going to get into a few more things about what you're doing in retirement, the book, and all that. But I want to pass something along, too, because people out there, they feel like they're part of your family through this whole thing. You talked about your family and the grandkids in the first segment, and unfortunately, we have to, I guess, pass along the news that your dear wife, Pat, passed away after a long battle here recently. And just how are you doing, first of all?
I'm doing wonderfully well. Thank you, Steve. And it may sound a little bit trite for somebody to hear you say you're doing wonderfully well, but I say that because of my Lord and Savior. Without him, I couldn't make it, and because of him, I know where she is, and the other part of that is that she is never going to be in pain again, and with that, I can let her go, and I did let her go, and so thanks for asking, but life moves on, and we move on with it, and we were blessed to have her for 44 years, 5 months, and 17 days. And this coming Friday will be 6 months since she passed away, so it's kind of a special week for me. So thanks for asking, but you know, love all your family, everybody, and tell them how much you love them every day, because you never know. I always promise tomorrow. Go ahead.
Yeah, well, a beautiful testimony in the relationship and the length of time, and I know in both of your cases, the vows meant something.
Absolutely.
You know, in the best of times and the worst of times, you were there.
And that's the thing about it. It's not always going to be good times, as we know. Well, you don't necessarily know that when you first get married. So you think everything's going to be
bliss then, right?
Bliss, absolutely. 2 days later, it's like, wait a minute, what's going on here? But no.
Maybe that's why I stayed away from it for so long.
You know.
I want to talk about this book now because, as I mentioned in the first segment, you wrote In Hindsight, which is really a chronicle of all the great stories and moments and experiences you had in 40 years in your career. It's not a sports book, it's an experience book, and I found it fascinating.
Good. I appreciate you saying that. I haven't thought about it in that way. I always thought it was a sports book and a biography, so to speak, but you're right. It was an experience book. And I tried to write about things that I thought would be interesting, exciting on some occasions, and then a lot of things that people could identify with here in Middle Tennessee. The personalities, the teams, the coaches, the games, the incidences, all the things that we shared together through all of that time. You know, it wasn't. I was in broadcasting 40 years. I was only here for 33. I was 7 or 8 years in 5 or 6 other markets across the country, but most of the time was here. So most of the book is about here.
Yeah, it is fascinating if you're a Middle Tennessee or a Hope Hines fan to read about his career and the stories there. But then you decided to write another book, which is totally different. You hope it comes out sometime this year.
This year.
Well, what is this one all about?
This is a novel, and I've been writing it, Steve, off and on for over 2 years. I've been thinking about it for 30 years. So I pretty well know what it is that I wanted to write about, and it takes place in South Georgia, partly about my life growing up in the 1950s in a very segregated South when white people were white people and black people were colored people. And that's another time and another era. But I had a black man as my mentor because I didn't have the greatest relationship with my father. So I gravitated toward this man, and then there were just a lot of things that happened. He helped me grow up. He helped me become a man. He helped me see the other side of life. He helped me to see the side of life that he lived in, that I knew about, but I didn't know about. You know, it's just that simple. And so some of these things are made up that happen. Most of them, however, did happen, and I just embellish on them. And
a creatively told true story.
Well, exactly, and some of it is very sad, and some of it is dramatic, and some of it is funny. And so I just, it's a relational book. It's not a book necessarily with a plot. You know, it's about relationships between a white boy and a black man. Back during an era.
And that was a no-no.
Yeah, exactly. You're exactly right. That was a no-no. And we were an odd couple. Excuse me. We're using that term for another movie that was another play as well.
Sure.
So that's pretty what that's what it is.
Well, that'll be fascinating. Certainly keep us posted on that. I'll have you back on Sportsline just to talk about it because it's that fascinating to me.
We'll do it.
I want to get your take. Titans
Let's go.
Had Mike Vrabel last year.
Yep.
Some people thought it was bizarre that you would fire a coach that got him to the playoffs in Mike Mularkey. They bring in Mike Vrabel. They go 9-7 in year one. What did you make of year one of the Vrabel era?
Question mark, like everybody else. When Mike came in, I knew his background like everybody else did, and I looked at it and I researched some of it. I thought if anybody can do what he's about to try to do, he would be a pretty good candidate to do it, knowing everything about him, about his personality, about his background, and how he thinks and how he played and how he was even an assistant coach. So I thought he could do a pretty good job, and I thought he did a good job. He didn't do a great job, because who can do a great job their first year? Nobody. I don't think anybody can do a great job. So you do the best that you can. You bring everything to the table that you had as a player and a coach and assistant coach and all of that. So and his ace in the hole are the draft choices. They always are. And John Robinson's done a fabulous job the first 2 years. He did a fabulous job his first year. He did a really good job this year. So I think, of course, that's to be determined. But he's got some players. He's got some people that he brought in. They've signed some people. So I think Titan fans should be excited about what's in front of them.
And they've tried to retool the offense to give Marcus Mariota his best opportunities to succeed. And this is clearly a make or break season for him as he goes into the final year of the rookie contract. Is he the long-term option? You have seen every quarterback to put on the two-tone blue of the Tennessee Titans. How do you evaluate Marcus Mariota through 4 years?
A little bit short of what I anticipated that he would become in 4 years, but injury had a lot to do with that, of course. I think he's a fine talent. I think he was too much was expected of him when he came here, and the pieces weren't together when he first came. So he's had time now. Yes, he either has to do it this year or he's probably going to be gone, and probably should be.
Do you think he can, or do you think
I don't know.
We've seen what he is at this point?
No, I think he can. First of all, he's known for throwing interceptions. He's got to get that ball in the places it needs to be. But part of that had to do with the receivers. He's got some guys around him now that can play football. He's got an A.J. Brown. It's probably going to be world. He's going to be as good as he ever played, maybe. And Corey Davis, and you got a lot of guys out there that can help him this year. He's got an offensive line. The key to that, of course, is offensive line as well. And so when the Titans went to the Super Bowl, offensive line was key, and defense was key on both sides of the ball. So they're trying to work to get it all together. Whether it happens this year or not, that they get deep into the playoffs, I don't know. I think they have a great shot at being in the playoffs. Now, how deep can they go? So we'll see.
It's $1 million question. How you go from good to great is actually their theme for the offseason. We'll see if they can do it. You sat behind this desk for 40 years, giving the sports most of the time here in Nashville about the Titans or the Preds or whatever came before that. Did you ever think you would see a day when the NFL draft was in downtown Nashville with 200,000 people in the streets watching it?
No, never. And that was a phenomenon. To me, that was a phenomenon. And so I think the country had a ringside seat on what's going on in Nashville, Tennessee right now, and what can go on in this city when it gets excited. There are certain things that will excite most in the city. The NFL draft will do that. Stanley Cup will certainly do that. And now we're on the precipice, are we? I hear Major League Baseball. Who can say? Now you guys need something else to do on a daily basis. So
we're going to bring you out of retirement if they do that, because we're not going to have enough bodies to go around.
Right,
so you're going to have to pitch in a little bit.
Yeah, but this is a very vibrant city. I'm proud of it. I enjoyed being here when I did. I'm happy to sit on the sidelines now from my comfortable sofa and watch on my big screen TV.
You've certainly earned that. The other thing that's coming next year is Major League Soccer. How do you think that you watch the Preds and the Titans start the existence of professional and major league sports here in this market? Now here we are about 20 years later, and here comes a third team in soccer. How do you think that will fit?
I think what you have going for you in that regard is something that we haven't had before, and that's the youth. because the youth loves soccer and soccer loves the youth, and it goes together. And the soccer moms around here who have been driving their kids to soccer camp and soccer games now are going to be able to take it a little bit further than they ever have before. So I think it's got a real good shot of making it. Like the Predators, they've got work to do. There's no question about it, because this part of the country, the South, is not soccer country. You know, it is in Europe, but not here. So if they could do as good a job as the Preds did, and get everybody excited about it, get the corporate community behind it, then I think they got a home run.
All right, last question about sports. You said you don't watch all the time now because you don't have to for the first time in your life. But if you are at home on a night, or if you wanted to go to a game or something like that, if you wanted to do something to just enjoy, not to work, not to think about it in a work sense anymore, but just enjoy it, what would be the sporting event it is for you?
I'm watching golf.
Yeah.
I'm watching Tiger win the Masters, and it was one of the greatest.
How about that, by the way?
It was one of the greatest moments that I have spent since being away from sportscasting. I was totally involved in him winning that tournament. I had bought into him winning that tournament on Sunday afternoon, and I sat right there on the edge of my seat. I don't know if I went to the bathroom. I probably didn't. And I sat right there and watched it all the way. I got a little nervous.
Yeah.
Got a little nervous there a couple of times, but Tiger stood up to the world and said, "I'm back."
What
now,
a moment.
Can he do it again? Can he do it this week?
This weekend.
Can he do it at
Bethpage Black?
Bethpage Black.
One of the toughest courses out there.
Exactly. You know what the sign says.
Yeah.
You've seen it.
If you're not a highly skilled golfer, stay away.
Stay away.
Tiger is that. We'll see if he gets to the weekend. You know, we're all going to be plastered to our seats again.
But to answer your question, all the great sporting events, you know, the World Series. I'm not a great baseball fan.
You still get the excitement when it's a World Series game.
Yeah.
I mean, even if you're at home, just watch it. You still get that?
Yeah, because I know what it is. I know what it represents. I know what it means. I know what it's been. And I think about, like a lot of people like you, I'm sure, of all the great players that have come through over the years that maybe not even played in the World Series, but at World Series time, you begin to thinking about all of the great stars of the game.
Yeah.
And Super Bowl, of course, and Final Four. You know, I mean, it goes on and on. College football still, to me, is the greatest sport on earth. There's nothing like a Saturday afternoon in Neyland Stadium, or in Tuscaloosa, or between the hedges in Athens, or in the swamp in Florida. It just doesn't get any better than that. And with all the pomp and the pageantry, are you kidding me?
Fun memories for sure.
Yes.
Hope we could talk all hour, and I need to have you back for a whole hour, and we'll do that sometime down the road. But you're also here tonight to talk about a race that is really near and dear to your heart and has been for a long time. We've got David Davenport here tonight. We have Chief Anderson here. You're going to talk about the Shoney's 5K Fun Run. So I'm going to turn it over to you now. When you come back, you can talk about how much it means to you. Get those gentlemen up here and talk about what is a really, really great cause benefiting Metro Police.
And I want to commend you for the job that you do, and Big John does, and Brian McKeegan and Bob Kuzak and all of the guys in the sports department. You're doing a great job.
A couple of those guys were around you much longer than I have been, but for me, I learned a lot from you in a short time, and I appreciate your hospitality, kindness, wisdom, all that over the years. So enjoy the rest of the show back in your old seats, and we'll see you around here soon.
Good. Thank you, Steve.
All right, we'll be back on Sportsline right after this.